The air traffic control tapes reveal that Robin Washer instructed both the SkyWest Metroliner and the U.S. Air Flight to use runway 24 left at the same time. NTSB investigators now know that human error played a major role in the collision at LAX.
This situation that occurred is a situation that no controller wants to go through. You train your whole career for this not to happen. And when it does happen, it's, you can't even describe the feelings that you go through.
In Jakarta, the search for answers to what brought down a Sukhoi demonstration flight takes investigators to air traffic control.
So, can you tell me what happened?
Well, they were just supposed to do a 30-minute loop. Then before I knew it, they had disappeared from radar.
So why did they end up at Mount Select?
I don't know.
But weren't you supposed to be monitoring them?
I was so busy, I lost track of the plane.
Investigators learned that the controller had an exceptionally heavy workload. He was monitoring about a dozen flights.
EY 7136 cleared to land. JT 792, continue approach to runway 24.
Making matters worse, both his assistant and his supervisor were absent that shift. He was doing 3 jobs.
Why did you clear them to fly at 6,000 feet? You must have known they would never clear the mountain.
My system said it was a military jet.
Investigators discovered that the airport status system had incorrectly labeled the plane as Su-30, which identifies it as a Sukhoi military aircraft.
Military can fly pretty much as low as they want.
Jakarta Control, Sukhoi 36801, requesting descent at 6,000.
When the pilots requested a descent, the controller assumed they were heading for a military training area in Bogor, right along the Sukhoi's flight path.
Sukhoi 36801, cleared to 6,000 feet. EY 7136, cleared to land. JT 792, continue approach to runway 24.
The ATC thought that it was a military aircraft flying in a military airspace, so 6,000 is not a concern for them.
But I still don't understand, why was the plane so far off course?
That's a good question. I really don't know.
Air China Flight 129 has crashed into the side of Mount Day, miles from the intended runway. After any plane crash near a runway, some of the first people investigators want to speak to are the air traffic controllers.
They were slated to perform a straight-in approach, but there was changed to a circling approach.
Why the sudden change?
The wind changed direction. I changed the approach so they can land into the wind.
Switching from straight-in to a circling approach is something that happens routinely at airports around the world.
Some airports, you have to come one way in because of mountains or whatever, and then once you get to the airport, because of winds, you may circle and land.
Flight 129 was originally scheduled to land on runway 36 left, coming in from the south. But after the change, they were headed for runway 18 right, coming in from the north instead.
We're close to the sea. The weather is always changing. We do this all the time.
Air traffic control gave them clearance for a circling approach, which was appropriate for the weather conditions at the time.
Is there anything else you can remember?
Communications. The radio communications were all wrong.
How do you mean?
Air China 129, contact tower 118.1, circle west.
Shortly after he instructs Flight 129 to do a circling approach, the tower controller tells the pilots to switch to a new radio frequency.
Air China 129, contact tower 118.1.
All airports use a standard frequency to communicate in emergency situations. If air traffic control even suspects a plane is in distress, they will use this frequency to contact the crew.
Kimbe Tower, Air China 129. Circular approach, 18 right.
Air China 129, check wheels down. Wind 210 at 17 knots. Clear to land runway 18 right. They finally called me back. It seemed like we're finally back on track. Then less than a minute later, they crashed into the mountain.
The Air China crew was slow to respond to air traffic control. Investigators need to know what was going on in the cockpit during the unusual delay.
If air traffic controllers make a statement and the crew either doesn't answer or misinterprets it, it can cause the accident.
People make mistakes. It's a lesson the airline industry has learned the hard way. A lesson that fundamentally shaped how planes travel across the skies today. Mistakes can be made for a number of reasons. The tools controllers use to track them are inadequate.
Controllers have been complaining about the radars for a long time.
The failing system is putting passengers at risk. Labor Day weekend, 1986. Approach controller Walter White guides Aeromexico Flight 498 in for a landing at Los Angeles International Airport. The airspace around LAX is very tightly controlled. It's called the TCA, the Terminal Control Area. As Aeromexico Flight 498 closes in on the airport, Walter White sees a plane he does not expect on his radar.
Okay, you are right in the middle of the TCA, sir.
Grumman 66 Romeo, I suggest in future you look at your TCA chart.
Walter White hustles the small plane out of the controlled airspace. But White doesn't realize that there's another plane dangerously off course.
Parking brake.
Set. Detroit Metropolitan Airport. The crew of Northwest Airlines Flight 299 prepares to depart for Memphis.
Man, I don't think I've ever seen fog this bad.
In the tower, controllers are dealing with fog that's blanketed the entire airport. The ground controller clears Flight 299 to taxi to the active Runway 3 center. It will follow a series of taxiways known as Oscar, Foxtrot, and X-Ray that will take it to the runway's threshold.
Northwest 299, what's your position now?
Okay, we just turned down onto X-Ray 299.
Roger, switch to tower control 118.4.
Roger.
As Flight 299 nears the runway threshold, control of the plane passes from the ground controller to the tower controller. The 727 is now at the runway threshold, preparing for takeoff.
Northwest 299, Metro Tower. Runway 3 center, clear for takeoff.
Roger.
Flight 299 is cleared for takeoff. The 727 is seconds away from leaving the ground. But danger lies ahead. A DC-9 is stopped halfway down the runway. In the cockpit, Captain Bill Lovelace and First Officer Jim Schifferins are lost in the fog.
This is a runway.
Yeah.
Oh, damn!
There's very little time to avoid a collision.
Oh, God!
Inside the DC-9, it's chaos. Firefighters and emergency response teams race to the scene. 8 passengers are killed, making it the deadliest incident of its kind on U.S. soil in almost 2 decades.
Sunjet 282, proceed directly to runway, backtrack, and hold.
Los Rodeos Airport on the Spanish island of Tenerife is busier than it's ever been.
BA 783, hold short of the runway and stand by for taxi clearance.
With so many planes parked in the taxiways, the controllers instruct departing flights to taxi along the airport's only runway to get into position for takeoff. One of the planes waiting to get to Las Palmas is Pan Am Flight 1736. The Pan Am crew is ready to get back in the air, but they can't taxi to the runway. A KLM 747 has stopped in front of them to refuel.
Tenerife, KLM 4805, you finished refueling, requesting clearance for startup.
He said, follow KLM down a runway, backtrack, make an exit to get around back of KLM. So that's what we were doing.
First Officer Bragg is unfamiliar with the airport. He checks a runway diagram to help find their turn.
Okay, that's this one right here.
Goes ahead. It's going to put us on the taxiway.
As they taxi, they listen to the tower controller tell the KLM crew ahead of them what to do after departure.
You are clear to the Papa Beacon. Climb to and maintain flight level 90, right turn after takeoff.
Roger, clear to the Papa Beacon. Flight level 90, right turn up. We are now at takeoff.
Okay, stand by for takeoff. I will call you.
And we're still taxiing down
The runway, Clipper 1736.
Papa Alpha 1736, report runway clear.
Okay, we'll report when we're clear.
Thank you.
The Pan Am crew will be turning off the runway in just a few more yards. But now something's wrong. First Officer Bragg can see a plane through the fog.
I think he's moving.
Look at him.
That idiot's coming.
Saw KLM too.
Get off. Get off!
Captain Grubbs tries to steer clear of the oncoming KLM. But it's bearing down on them at nearly 200 miles an hour.
He had lifted off the runway. I could see his rotating beacon underneath.
Get off, get off, get off! Get off, get off, get off!
And then I ducked and said a real quick prayer. God, I hope he misses us.
Landing at LAX can be a challenge for pilots. The airspace around the airport is often thick with traffic. On average, a plane arrives or departs every 50 seconds. Each of its 4 runways handles both takeoffs and landings. Taxiways intersect the runways at dozens of locations. The airport can be a maze of stops and starts for pilots following instructions issued by controllers. Local controller Robin Washer is overseeing the 2 north runways at LAX, 24 left and 24 right. The investigation into the deadly collision on runway 24 left focuses on Robin Washer's conversations with the 2 planes involved. The answer will raise alarming questions about the safety of all passengers flying to and from LAX. The air traffic control tapes reveal that Robin Washer instructed both the SkyWest Metroliner and the U.S. Air Flight to use runway 24 left at the same time. NTSB investigators now know that human error played a major role in the collision at LAX.
This situation that occurred is a situation that no controller wants to go through. You train your whole career for this not to happen. And when it does happen, it's, you can't even describe the feelings that you go through. A situation like this could potentially happen to anybody. We are all human.
After the accident, Washer left her job at LAX and never worked as an air traffic controller again.